Here's all the terrain. Let's take a closer look since I'm not printing all this shit off. There are two different kinds of towers, but that's two different kinds. They're all the same fucking thing. The only difference is what goes on at the top. The A tower or whatever the fuck it is has this is the B tower, sorry. It has these wooden posts which allow for a bigger rooftop cap, and the other ones, the A towers, are a little smaller, which allow for a smaller rooftop cap. The thing that sucks about this thing is that obviously it's just a bonfire. It looks cool with some gargoyles. I wish all the gargoyles were different. That'd be really not, that'd be cool. If it was like a north, south, something, 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 that'd be great. What's also really nice about this other wooden one is there's a trap door. It's like, yo, you can go up there. It'd be I think it would be better if it was built into or designed into the actual deck because as is in one of the other videos you can see the thing, if you have a large creature, it won't fit flush because this thing sticks out so much. And again, all of these towers are exactly the same, except for what goes on at the top. The other difference is where these little posts are. This allows for the gate to go at different positions. There's, the position where it's in the corner. You can have it the position where this thing, with that makes there's only these centered things. These, I don't know what these are called. These end cap whatevers are make it so that this tower can be in the corner or they're on opposite sides so you can put this thing in the middle of a wall or it just stands alone. But other than that, these things they're exactly the same size, which is a real letdown. It's a real letdown because they could have just switched up, the brickwork, the stonework on each side, or shifted it, rotated it. But the stonework is exactly the same, and I just think it's a real missed opportunity. In terms of the gate itself, it does work. It works. You just glue this giant post to one of the towers, and then this gate slips on in, and there's even like a little hinge pin, which is pretty cool. And on the backside has a slot where you can put this giant piece of wood. It's neat. And then there's plenty of other shit you can print off, which is just, derivations on the exact same thing. But again, you're going to be printing a lot of this. It's going to take forever. I just think it'd just be so much better off if they could find a way to just design this thing so that it looks so you could cast it yourself, which this piece, God, you might be able to. Maybe I might look into that because if you could just cast this yourself, you could get resin that cures in 5 minutes. 5 minutes, boom, 5 minutes, done. Break this thing into four different parts, corner, corner, something, something, something. 5 minutes, you're done. Ugh. So I don't know. Is it worth it? When it comes down to it, you could just get some I don't know, cardboard or Dave Graffam. Look up Dave Graffam. It's got some great stuff, but that's what the terrain is. Okay, how the fuck do I stop this? Here are the city watch. This is the modular aspect of this month. So let's start off with the heads. We've got good mustache on that guy. I like that they have. Wow, you see that? You got some kind of eyebrows going on. Yelly guy. Dude, I'm loving the scars actually. I don't think you don't really notice that always. And then dude with a solid beard. So you got four different heads. Of course, you can, mirror them up. That'll be a refrain I will come back to. We got open hand, close hand. Of course, you could just, switch them up. And they do all have the same kind of, what does that look like? I don't know, whatever that cool, like a quilted greave or something. In terms of other arm options, hand options, we got ourselves a nice sword. and what are we calling that? A mace, morning star. Um, Here's something that's interesting. I hadn't really noticed. The tip of it, oh, that's kind of nice. The tip, the end of it is big. That's a nice little design choice that they made. Um, and we've got a bow, if you so choose, and a warhammer. Fun that you got a little insignia there. Also, if you wanted your other hand to be pulling out an arrow, you can do that. This is where it gets a little complicated, all the pole arms. So it's like there are a couple different versions of these halberds. You've got, a pointy end. You've got what's kind of an axe end. They've got versions where one hand is holding it, versions where two hand is holding it. Here's a spear. Here's another pointy version. A spear, two hands, halberd, two ver. The problem with this is that the hands on the weapons are in very specific locations and they only match up with certain body positions, which so then you kind of need to either print off just a bunch and figure out the what matches up with what, or you kind of need to, I don't know, move them around in the 3D program because all of the arms are in different locations. So not everything fits with everything. Now, of course, it only costs pennies to print them off, but it's still kind of annoying. Um, there are some body types that already have quivers, so that could be your archers. Here's some body types, more body types, different archer, but kind of looks very, very, very similar. Another archer. I like the different placement of the sword. That's nice. Um, Other body right there. And also, real quick, yes, there are four different shield types. So, that could be cool if you wanted everyone to have the same kind of shield. That could be nice. And those are the modular city watch. All right, here are a little more up close. Here's some more up close. Here's the sergeant. Again, sort of scowling. Good size. You gotta watch out for this thing. This little plume, whatever. It broke on two of the three of mine. Maybe even three out of three of them. It's so thin at the top. It's a little frustrating, but it is nice that the whole guy does come in one piece. Here's what are we calling this guy? The rookie bowman. It's cute. He looks young. He actually does look young, coupled with the fact that he's looking in one direction. When you match up his bow and arrow, it's going in the other direction. I guess you could say that, oh yeah, he's putting his arrow on incorrectly because he's a rookie. Fuck that. No, this is just a design flaw. Um, the other big thing is this siege giant, which I think is really fantastic. Let's take a look at his face. Um, this does not look like one of those generic models. You see sometimes those generic looking 3D rendered bad guy faces. This is not one of them. This guy looks good. It's got a great face, and he's holding, I probably saw it in the other video, this giant, very, I'll say, clever ramming device. The placement of all of the joints are really solid. They really get hidden. The hand gets hidden underneath these little forearm thingamajigs. Speaking of which, I love that he's wearing shields as his shoulder armor, or like his cod piece. It's a very lovely, it's called a lovely touch. And then of course he does have this deck that goes on the back of him. I didn't have any trouble with any of these supports. They're pretty thorough, and they came off really really well. This is an upside down ladder that these little people are holding on the back of. This is again what makes it a diorama rather than a sort of a playing piece. Because this guy, once you're not in war, what is this guy doing? And you're probably going to want to glue him on because, his feet are staggered because they're fitting specifically onto the rungs of the ladder. So there's kind of only one thing for him to be doing. Same thing with these other two gentlemen that are joining him up top. This is the guy using the. I wish there was an easy way to use Cheetah Box to do this. I wish he's. Oh, you know what? He's got the same fucking face, doesn't he? he has the same face of one of the other guys. It must be difficult, I realize that, to design faces, although it's a little bit of a bummer that he just has the same one. He's pulling back on this giant crossbow thing. I'm sure there's a name for it, but I don't know what it is. And then they got a little rope ladder that, for me, part of it broke when I was putting it together. Like this little bit here, this is, I think, I don't know, one of these bits fell off, but you just glue it and no one really notices. But it's a great piece. I think I love the siege giant more by himself. Now, here we go with a couple of the, again, what I'm calling them NPCs. There's three jesters. This is the jester Harlequin, we have the jester Enforcer, and the jester Harbinger. I think the word, though, is Harbinger. There's only one R. But let's take a look at these. Again, the supports came off really well. Some of these things I'm a little nervous about, honestly. You know, this cleaver that he has is pretty thin, although I think it's pretty cool that he has that little ace of spades. And this little crutch that he has some sort of hidden, secretive, I don't know what we call that, blade that pops out, which is a pretty cool touch, you know, because he needs the crutch because he only has one leg, if we can see right down there. And then back to the Enforcer, he's separate from his hammer, which he has here, and his stance is really wide. It's sort of hard to see, but if you're using a 25 millimeter or 1-inch base, his feet kind of go beyond the edges. They could have, I just wish they could have just made his stance a little less wide so he actually fits. But it's sort of fun to see a mean jester, a mean fat jester, because you don't see them too often. And then, of course, I'll say stereotypical jester. Now, this thing, I guess, what is this? A dagger for 3 out. I think two out of three it broke because when you're taking these supports off, it's incredibly thin and it's really hard. And even the one of them that did last is kind of bent. Also, these little bells come off real easy. I had a couple of those fall off. But again, these are, I think, some really fun NPCs, especially if you're going into a castle, there's a king, or maybe, I don't know, maybe there's an evil bunch of jesters, a little jester gang. Now these are the Gutter Shade people, and I don't know what that is a reference to, but this is that war band fellow, the war drummer, who looks really good. He looks like a half orc or something like that. I'm kind of digging this little lampshade he's got hanging off of him. Pretty cool. And I think this is the one that's my favorite. This is the one that I thought of as an assassin, the Manhunter. Cool looking knives, very unique, and he's nice and sort of at the ready. He's not fully engaged in some kind of activity. He's just prepared for anything, which means, you can sort of put him in any position. Same with this guy. Looks sort of more like a little swashbuckler. They call him the Gutter Shade Vindicator. But he's got a good look. All of these are slightly cartoony, possibly a little more cartoony than I would prefer. But I love that he's got some sort of weird bladed weapon with a long handle. His little skulls on his feet. It's a good look. He could be a good, great, big villain. And then these are the heroes. Each month comes with 3 heroes. This is the human mage, and again, I just wish that this staff thing of hers was a little thicker because it's really thin. Not much, not much attitude in the face. Kind of generic. Um, this guy, I mean, there's a lot of life there. You know, for being very small, I love that we can sort of see his eyebrows, his little furrow, and his brow's good. Um, as much as I'm a fan of having figures not be so actively engaged, it's a really great pose. It looks more iconic than active, if you will. And this ring mail shows up really well. Um, and it actually looks that it's pretty much kind of designed. And thank you to them to making the design. It goes all the way to the body. I have come across some other 3D designers where they tried to make it really realistic, and you just get a ton of islands and loose pieces. And then we have our dwarf artificer. Again, sort of a very, I don't know, plain face, generic, cartoony. But you know, if you want a female dwarf artificer, there you go. And as with all of these, you do need to print off your own bases. Now there are 5 bases included. There are some extra in the welcome pack, but this will give you an idea. They're all sort of just cobblestone bases. For the life of me, I don't even think I checked to see what the 32 millimeter sizes were. I don't know if they're just larger. I mean, I guess. And then they do have quite a few others. But that gives you an idea of what these people look like. Okay, hi there. If you find this kind of video helpful, let me know. It turned out to be fairly easy to do and kind of quick. And I'm wondering if it's very helpful. I don't know. I don't know if seeing, you know, gray miniatures works. I don't know if it's worth it to set it up with the little lighting on the little turntable that goes. If you find any of the things you've seen, especially if you've seen a few other videos, if there's one particular style or technique of showing these things off to you that you find particularly helpful, please let me know because I'd like to keep doing these, but man, it is fucking tedious.